Is it worth being a driving instructor in 2023 and beyond? Well, in this video, I'm going to give you 5 things to consider when you're thinking about becoming an instructor. If you don't know who I am, my name's Paul and I've been a driving instructor in the UK for over 20 years. I've made over 700 videos on YouTube. I've trained hundreds, probably thousands of driving instructors. I've trained over 1,000 people to drive. So I know what I'm talking about when it comes to this. And I also work as a therapist, so I understand how the mind works and how people think, which comes in handy when you teach people to drive. But let's get into these 5 things you need to consider. The first one is the potential new rules coming in from the DVSA in summer 2023. So if you don't know about this, there's this thing been rumbling on now for quite a while where, to put it simply, because I could talk about this for hours, to put it simply, the test waiting times got really bad. They've always been bad, but they got really bad around 2020 with everything being shut down. And even now, as I record this in June 2023, the waiting times are still way over 6 months in most parts of the country for a driving test for learner drivers. So the DVSA have done all they can, and they're now doing even more to clamp down and cut the waiting times. And the way they're doing this is they are saying that they are going to record the results of every single driving test that's done by a driving instructor. And if your pass rate falls below a certain number, then you as a driving instructor will be called back to retake your test of ability to teach, what's known as ADI Part 3, which is pretty much the same thing as a standards check. So to qualify as an instructor, you pass ADI 1, 2 and 3, and then you have to retake Part 3, which is known as a standards check, every so often. But they're saying that if your pass rate falls below a certain level, you're going to have to retake your test. Now, up until now, the law has always been that you only have to display your ADI badge or your PDI badge if you're a potential driving instructor in the window when you're giving paid tuition. And a driving test is not paid tuition, so therefore you've been able to take the badge out of the car and the result doesn't get recorded. But they are changing the law potentially to make it so a driving instructor has to display their badge by law, otherwise you'll be removed from the register or whatever they're going to do. But it will be a legal requirement to display your badge. There are many problems with this that I've made other videos about, which I've since taken down because it changes so fast. But quite simply, you need to consider that if you're going to become a driving instructor, currently you are supposed to be retested every 2 to 4 years. The idea is, if you get a grade B, and this is going into quite deep, but bear with me, look on my website if you want to learn more about all of this. But when you do your standards check as a driving instructor, you get either a grade B or a grade A, or if you fail, you get an F. If you get a grade B, you're supposed to take your teaching test every 2 years. A grade A, it's every 4 years. In reality, those figures are way off. Whatever grade you get, where I am in Birmingham, it's about generally 6 to 10 years between your tests. And this begs the question, how are they possibly going to enforce this new rule? Even as it is, even just giving instructors one test every 2 to 4 years, it's actually every 6 to 10 years because they're so far behind. How are they ever going to enforce this? How are they possibly going to fit all these tests in? I just don't see it working, and it's not definite yet, but they're considering changing the law. And if they bring it in, a lot of instructors are saying, well, fine, I just won't take people for tests. So it's going to create a very messy industry where learners don't want to, well, driving instructors won't want to take learners for tests because if they fail, you risk losing your job. And a learner failing a test is in no way a reflection of the instructor's ability to teach. We all know that learners fail because of nerves. I know this from my job as a therapist. It's nerves, it's panicking. When a learner nearly crashed into a parked car on a driving test, do you honestly think the instructor has taught them to crash into parked cars? Do you honestly think that we haven't spotted that, and we're just sitting back, not noticing that they're nearly crashing into parked cars? Of course, instructors see that. It's disingenuous to say that they don't. So, punishing instructors for learners failing is going to create mayhem, because first of all, they can't even keep up with the tests anyway. And one of the people that used to do the test has now quit and become an instructor. So there's even less of them doing it now. There is the fact that instructors will just say, I'm not taking people on tests. You just say, well, I'll teach you to drive, but I'm not going to take you on a test. How are they going to enforce this? It's going to be chaos. I could do a whole separate video on this, so I won't talk about it for too long because this could be an hour long, this section alone. But that is one of the main things to consider, that the rules are maybe changing, the DVSA are thinking about it. But a lot of people are saying, look, this is nothing to do with standards and road safety and raising the standards of instruction, because that's what it's all pretending to be about. People are saying, look, it's just about them getting the waiting times down. They want to scare everyone, so everyone's like, oh, I'm not taking you for a test. Oh, don't book a test. I'm not taking you. Don't want to risk losing my job. And then the waiting times are going to fall, and that's why they're doing it. Well, is that the real reason, or is it to raise standards? There are many instructors who are saying, well, I don't care because I'm a good instructor. I would love to see those instructors, when their pupils start failing tests and they start getting very worried because their pass rate is falling. Yes, in theory, it's all very well. You can be the best instructor in the best car. You can use hypnosis and psychology and all kinds of things. People are still going to fail because they're human beings and they make mistakes and they mess up. And I've spoken to examiners about this off the record, and they've said to me, I'm not going to say who, but I've spoken to multiple examiners who have said they don't think it's a good idea and they don't want to enforce it. Will it happen? Who knows? But I won't talk about that point for any longer. Let's move on to the second point, which is, if you don't know, we're in recession. Now, officially we're not, because officially I think there has to be 2 quarters of consecutive falling income for the country, whatever, for it to be a recession. So technically we're not in a recession, but in reality we are. If you haven't noticed, prices are going up. Mortgages, rent, food, energy, driving lessons, everything is going up. I looked around the other day, and even one of the cheapest schools in Birmingham is charging £30 an hour for lessons. There are instructors charging £40, £50, £60 an hour, and people can't afford that. Many people that learn to drive just haven't got the money to learn to drive, and the number of people learning is falling, which is going through to less people learning, less people taking lessons. A lot of instructors are now struggling for work. It used to always be the opposite, but now less people are learning, I think, than ever, and the numbers are falling. And there are many reasons for that. One of them, which I'll move on to now, is things like automated vehicles. Self-driving cars are coming, and it's estimated, the official figures from the government or the DVSA, I can't remember which it was, the same sort of thing really. They said that by 2030, 1 in 8 vehicles on the road will be self-driving. At the moment, you still need a driving licence to have a self-driving car, but that probably won't always be the case. More and more people are probably thinking about going to autonomous vehicles. There are things like autonomous taxis are now coming. One of the main costs of a taxi is the driver, paying them a wage. Guess what? You don't have to pay robots. If a car turns up and it's an electric car and it will drive you somewhere, taxis are going to be cheap. I mean, I don't know what they are. I don't use taxis myself, but you'll probably be, all taxi drivers will be wiped out. Why would you need them? You've got an automated taxi. And if you can have a manual driven taxi that's going to cost you £20 or an automated one that's going to be £5, which one are people going to go for? So self-driving cars are still a bit in the future. I looked at one the other day and it was £42,000 to buy it, £3,600 to have the automated feature fitted, and then I think it's £15 a month on top of that. So £45,000 up front plus £15 a month, plus it's not even legal in the UK yet. So there's a lot of hurdles before we get there, but it will happen. There will be self-driving cars. But that's something to consider. It's maybe 10 years or so away, but 10 years goes pretty quickly. I mean, 10 years ago, it's 2013 when I started doing a lot of videos on YouTube, and yeah, that seems like yesterday. Another big change to come in to consider, which may be happening, is, if you don't know about this, this might come as a huge shock to you. Do you know about the 20 limit? Well, you've probably noticed 20 zones have been popping up all over the place. Well, the plan is that from 2024, I think it is, they want all roads in England to have a speed limit 20. Yeah, did you know that? And if you think, oh no, you're talking rubbish, it's happening. It's coming into Wales, I think it's September this year. All the roads in Wales will have a speed limit 20. Now, not motorways, not some like high-speed dual carriageways, but you know how at the moment, like the road I'm on here, it's a 30 and the lampposts are so far apart and you've got houses and all that kind of thing. All roads like this will be 20, and it's estimated it's going to cost the economy 6.5 billion. That's not spending on signs, that's advertising and lost revenue and all the problems it's going to cause, because it is going to cause problems. Their estimate, I think it was 6.5 billion or 3.5 billion it's going to cost the economy to do it. And it was funny, the chart was like, this is like level, the advantages of doing it, the disadvantages. But unfortunately, they're pushing ahead with it, and it will probably be coming in, not definite, but in Wales it's coming in. I think Wales has been used as a bit of a testing ground, and if it works well there, then England, the whole of England, not just Birmingham, because it was just going to be like Birmingham and London, I think we're going to do it. Now it's the whole UK will have a normal speed limit, default limit, they're calling it, of 20. With, by the way, more speed cameras. They're going to put hundreds of extra speed cameras up in the form of community speed control, as you call community speed watch. I did a video on that years ago. They simply give members of the public who are concerned, residents who live on these roads, what some people call pensioner police, because there's a lot of pensioners who come out and they point speed guns at you, and they can write down your number, send it to police, and you get a warning letter in the post. They're going to be putting hundreds of those about, and they're looking for people who want to be people who want to volunteer to stand on the street with the speed cameras, speed guns. Plus, there's going to be more speed cameras everywhere, more cameras everywhere, tracking everyone. If you do 21 miles an hour, you get a fine and points. It's going to be very difficult to drive, and even I've taught learners who have. It's funny, I've got a speed limiter in this car. I've done a video about this. You can press limit and you can set it to 20. And even with that, it still sometimes will roll to 21, 22, 23 when you're going down a hill. And even learner drivers on their like second or third lesson say, this is too slow. This can't be right. If a learner is telling you it's too slow, it's too slow. I'm not going to get into that. It's a whole separate video I could do about that. But if you don't know, the 20 is plenty campaign want everywhere to be 20. And there are even people now who are saying 20 is too much and they want it to be 10. So it's all this kind of infighting with all these campaign groups or whatever. Maybe it won't happen, but it's all about pollution. I don't know how cars are polluted when they're electric. I don't get that. It's funny to me how we're slashing all the speed limits to save the environment, and then we're all getting electric cars. Does that mean the limit's going to go back up when all cars are automated and electric and they're all compute controlled and safe? Will the limits go back up? Who knows? I'm trying to get this as neutral as I can. I'm just hate using that word try. Shouldn't have used try, and I'm not supposed to use the word hate either. So this is my my therapy side of me coming out, you don't use the word try because try implies failure. If you try and do something, I'm going to try and pick this up. That's trying. A lot of people say, I'm going to try and pass my test. Don't try, do. I am going to pick this up. I am going to pass my test. Doesn't mean you will, but in your mind it doesn't make a difference as to how you think and view things. Anyway, hate, not supposed to say hate because hate's negative, and negative thoughts create negative feelings, which create negative emotions, which depress you. Sorry to get off topic, let's get back on it. What else was I going to talk about? I have made some notes over there because I don't normally make notes, but I've got so much to talk about. I think I've done it. Oh, the final thing is less people want to drive than ever before because of all of the above. And that is, of course, the idea, to stop people wanting to drive. Less younger people are now getting provisional licenses than before. Possibly that's via the recession, all the stuff after 2020, the price of cars, the price of housing. I mean, if you're a young person, I do feel sorry for you because you've got to pay thousands to go to uni, then you're probably not even going to be able to get a job anyway, and even if you do, it's going to take you 10 to 20 years to save a deposit for a house. Yeah, good luck to you if you're young and starting out. It's always been tough, but I don't think it's ever been tougher. So, things are changing, and one thing I'm just looking at the houses around here is house prices, if you don't know, are expected to fall 35% in the next 2 to 3 years. And people are saying, oh, it won't happen, electric cars will never come in, house prices won't drop, recession won't happen. Yeah, well, you can think like that if you want, but it doesn't change the fact it's happening. The world is in a mess. I'm not saying it's all a bad thing. So electric cars, I actually quite like them. It'll be nice not to have gears and a handbrake and just to drive and to be not polluting the earth. And I know, yes, it causes pollution in other ways, but I would actually quite like an electric car. 20 zones, I don't agree with because I don't think speed is the main thing. There's all this stuff about speed kills. It isn't speed that kills. Does that mean it's okay to hit someone in a 20? Because when you see people in 20 zones, everyone's like this, what speed am I doing? Smell, bang, what was that? Oh, cyclist. What speed am I doing? Bang, oh, here, pedestrian. Oh, I'm doing 20. There's more to it than speed. It's awareness that keeps you safe. Whether you're doing 20 or 30 is sometimes irrelevant. If you're aware what's around you, like this person passing me now, you're safe. It's no good doing 20 and just to go, I'm doing 20, I'm safe, yeah. I could be on my phone, yeah. Don't have to pay attention, I'm doing 20. 20's plenty. It gives a false impression of safety, I think. So I'm not against everything. This thing about check testing, retraining, bad instructors, I'm all for it. If you don't know, and if you've made it this far into the video, well done. If you don't know, it's partly because of me that came in, because I was pushing since 2013. I started making videos about how bad instructors need to be taken off the road, about how we need to retest people. It was partly because of me that they got rid of the thing where you used to be allowed to have the examiner role play. I'm not saying it's all because of me, but I made a lot of videos back then about how I thought it was wrong for examiners to role play a pupil, and how you must have to take a real learner along, and I avoided using the word should there, which is another bad word to use. Don't use the word should, because should doesn't mean a thing. It implies you should do something, but you don't have to. Anyway, it's partly because of me that these changes came in. So if anyone says, oh, yeah, you just don't want higher standards, I've always been about higher standards, and I've pushed for a lot of stuff to come in that has since come in. Funny that, isn't it, how my videos got hundreds of thousands of views back in the day, and then they started changing the rules to all the things I was saying. I'm not saying it's all because of me, but I certainly played a part because I raised awareness of these things. So I'm not against higher instructor standards, but I don't agree with punishing instructors because your pupil does something wrong. And I've said this before, how is it going to make pupils feel if they go on a test, not only knowing that it's costing them a fortune, and that their job and their career and everything, and all the pressure from the friends having already passed, you've got all that stuff, and the hiccups as well maybe. But as well as all that, you've now got the added pressure of knowing if you fail, your instructor might lose the job, because that's not going to put any pressure on learners at all, is it? And it's not going to make them drive more nervously and then more people fail than ever, and then the instructor gets punished because what a mess. This video will be long enough. I think it's already going to be, 27 minutes, I think it is, something like that. Can't quite see the screen that well, about 20 minutes or so. So I'll leave it there. So being a driving instructor, having said I'll leave it there, has been a great job. But whether it will continue to be depends a lot on what happens. It is a fun job. It's a bit of a laugh. You can have a laugh teaching people to drive. It doesn't have to all be deadly serious. That's not the best way to teach people, because it's been proven over and over, if people enjoy learning, they'll learn better. It's common sense, right? It has been a great job, and I've enjoyed it, but I have to say, it does seem as though the party's over. It's almost as though, a lot of instructors have been on this ship for years, and a lot of us saw an iceberg come in, and we've jumped off. I know one great instructor used to work around here. He left years ago. He went to be a farmer. But look to you. Don't know why you'd want to be a farmer. Nothing wrong with it, but going from a driving instructor to a farmer is quite a career change. I know there's one farmer watches my videos. I went from being a driving instructor to being a hypnotherapist. How that happened is a bizarre story. You might think, what's that got to do with it? But the two go hand in hand, really. Driving anxiety, people being scared, understanding the mind, understanding how it works. That's what I did. Some instructors have gone off and started other businesses. I know one man who went inside some musical company, bands or something to do with that. So it has been a great job. What do you think? Are you still considering being an instructor after hearing these things? There's a lot more I could say, but I've already said enough. And I think I'll get home and edit this video and put it out there and see if it helps anyone. I don't like being negative. I don't just want to make a video, the end of driving lessons. It's all doom and gloom and we're all going to die and the industry's going down and no one's going to drive. I don't like just being like that, because I believe that even though some policies may seem odd, there's a good intention behind them. Like whenever anyone has a problem, driving anxiety or insomnia or whatever, there's always a positive meaning behind it. It's got it a bit wrong, and you have to kind of retune the mind, and that's how you get rid of anxiety. And I do think maybe some of these policies need a bit of retuning. I remember once teaching someone who was the 20s plenty supporter, and they kept doing 27 in 20 zones, and I said, you got to slow down. I was on the brake all the time, slow down. And I said, well, look, you support 20 zones, and they said, I didn't know it was like this. I didn't know it was this slow. And I said, what do you think of them now? And they said, they went from being a 20s plenty campaigner to hating them because they'd never actually driven a 20 themselves. Anyway, I'm gonna stop it here because I could go on for hours. I'm very passionate about my job and road safety and everything. But let's end it there. So check out these other videos for more help with driving lessons, tests, instructors or therapy. Do subscribe to my channel if you've enjoyed this and want to learn more. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you again soon for more videos.